my channel. I'm doing some Bible talk today. My name is Carmelita, and on my channel I like to engage in a coping skill when I talk about mental health resources. Today I'm doing Bible talk, so I decided to focus on the story of King David. I would like to focus on a part of it that we don't usually think about when we think about the story of David and Bathsheba. So I'm going to start out first by saying that though I am a therapist, I'm not your therapist. If you do need therapy, definitely reach out to a therapist in your location for services. And my channel is meant to be used as a resource for information and coping ideas that you can use with your therapist. It's not meant to replace mental health treatment. So before I get into the main topic, I'm just going to talk about my hand knitting for a second. I am a novice hand knitter, so this is my very first blanket, and it's still coming along. I'm still working on it. I'm using the Mondo Llama kit. I think it's Mondo Llama, and I had got it from Target a while ago, so I am, it's not like it's any kind of fancy kit. You can literally get it from Target, Amazon, whatever. And yeah, I like this skill because it's very soft, so it can definitely, I know a lot of people, a lot of clients like to have soft, like stuffed animals or blankets or things like that to help them feel comfortable or cope with anxiety. So I think this is one of those things that can be helpful if you have, if you need like your hands to be doing something, like you're fidgety, then this is also a really good skill because it doesn't require too much concentration. When you get the hang of it, you'll just start doing it without really thinking too much about it. In the beginning stages, when you're still learning, like I am, you will have to pay attention a little bit more, and that can also be a good mindfulness technique, because in mindfulness we really try to focus on doing the task in front of you instead of letting your mind wander to different places. So it's good for both types of things depending on how you're using it, and I really like it. It's a nice way to spend some time when I am just chilling. But yeah, like I said, I'm still working on it. It's been months because I don't have a lot of time to work on these types of things. You can see in the corners of the video at different times that my daughter pops in and my husband pops in. So it's like, and I think during the recording of this, I had to stop several times in order to take someone potty or something like that. So yeah, life is life, and so I definitely relate to my clients in that a lot of times there's not a lot of time to do coping skills. So I'm happy to be able to share a coping skill with people and show how you can adapt it to your lifestyle, whether that means you do get interrupted a million times and have to stop. That's okay. Just keep doing it until you get tired of it or you feel like you've exhausted your coping or creative activities for the day, or whatever your time allows. So anyways, with that being said, let's get into the topic. So that being said, I'm going to start out by reading 2 Samuel chapter 11, and then I'll talk a little bit about it based on a sermon that I actually heard a while ago. All right. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David and Joab out with the king's men, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah. But David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on the roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him and he slept with her. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanness, which means she had her period and she was bathing afterwards. Then she went back home. The woman conceived and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." So David sent this word to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war was going. Then David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with his master's servant and did not go down to his house. David was told Uriah did not go home, so he asked Uriah, "Haven't you just come from the military campaign? Why didn't you go home?" Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my commander Joab and my lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will not do such a thing." Then David said to him, "Stay here one more day, and tomorrow I will send you back." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. At David's invitation, he ate and drank with him, and David made him drunk. But in the evening, Uriah went out to sleep on his mat among his master's servants. He did not go home. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it to Uriah. In it, he wrote, "Put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fiercest. Then withdraw from him, so he will be struck down and die." So while Joab had the city under siege, he put Uriah at the place where he knew the strongest defenders were. When the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah the Hittite died. Joab sent David a full account of the battle. He instructed the messenger, "When you have finished giving the king this account of the battle, the king's anger may flare up, and he may ask you, 'Why did you get so close to the city to fight? Didn't you know they would shoot arrows from the wall? Who killed Abimelech, son of Jerub Besheth? Didn't a woman drop an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died in Thebes? Why did you get so close to the wall? If he asks you this, then say to him, 'Moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead.'" The messenger set out, and when he arrived, he told David everything Joab had sent him to say. The messenger said to David, "The men overpowered us and came out against us in the open, but we drove them back to the entrance of the city gate. Then the archers shot arrows at your servant from the wall, and some of the king's men died. Moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead." David told the messenger, "Say this to Joab, 'Don't let this upset you. The sword devours one as well as another. Press the attack against the city and destroy it.' Say this to encourage Joab." When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. After the time of mourning was over, David had her brought to his house, and she became his wife, and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. Okay, so I struggled through that, but you can also read it on your own. Some of the highlights here that I want to point out that we typically don't focus on in sermons that I recently heard in a sermon, which is why I'm talking about it today, because I was like, wow, that's profound. And I'll link the sermon in my text box down below, the description box down below, so that you can listen to it if you want. But one of the things that the pastor was talking about is that the very first verse tells us a lot. So in the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. So David was not doing what he needed to be doing. He was out resting or, being whatever he was doing, but he wasn't out to war like he's supposed to be. And so that saying that we say a lot, like idle hands are the devil's playthings, that's definitely displayed here. God gave David a role to play, and he wasn't playing that role. He was abusing his power. He was resting. I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't rest if you need to rest, but that's not really what he was doing. He was just doing other things. Because if you're resting, you're not really looking for trouble. You're minding your own business. You're lounging on your couch or whatever it is you're doing for your own self-care. But that's not what he was doing, right? He was lusting after someone else. He was looking for trouble almost. He was bored. And so his hands were getting into some trouble. His eyes were getting into some trouble. So that's the first thing. So when we are in a role that God has granted us, and we are denying that responsibility. And we might find ourselves bored, we might find ourselves looking for trouble, we might find ourselves sinning. And his sin led to multiple sins here. So he slept with her, right? And then, which, first of all, let me just stop right there, because in today's modern US society, what he did would be sexual harassment, right? Because he's an authority figure. So even if we wouldn't even know if it was consensual, it doesn't say it, it just says he slept with her. So just imagine, like, your king, your president, whoever it, has authority over all the land, is wanting to sleep with you. I could only imagine in this day and age how she might have felt. Like, if she denied him, would she die? Like, we don't really know what was going on through her head, and it doesn't talk about that. But right there, right, that's another issue, right? So anyways, not only did he sleep with her, but then he tries to get her husband to sleep with her to hide the fact that he slept with her because she's pregnant. And so he, when he says, no, I'm not going to, I'm gonna stay loyal to my troop, sleep on this mat, I'm not going home, why would I do that? He tries to get him drunk and tries to trick him that way. So that's another sin, right? Trying to deceive somebody. And still he says, no, I'm not going to do that. So then finally David plots to murder him. So like we're seeing this escalation of all of these sins. So like when you sin, it's not just a sin, there's like a domino effect. And then the pastor in the sermon actually goes on to talk about how even past this point, like after the baby is born, I believe that he talks about how this baby, which I don't remember what his name is, you'll have to forgive me, I'm not a pastor, but I don't remember if it was this offspring or it was another son, but he had like raped his sister or something like that. And so he was talking about how these sexual immorality sins, or any sins really, can really be passed down through the generations, because David had a lot of wives, I believe. It wasn't just one wife. And so his sexual immorality it wasn't just this one instance. So like we can only imagine, if this is one of the things he did, how many other things that he must have done in his life. And so that can pass on to the offspring through basically the environment, right? Like seeing how dad treats women, so son rapes sister, like, all of these things. So I just thought that was a very interesting perspective. And I guess what we could take away from it is, like, as Christians, when we're thinking about our mental health, we also have to think about, well, what has God like given me or blessed me with? What rules has he given me in life? And how might I be denying or running away from those rules in different ways? And what are the consequences of that? One way that you might run away from responsibility as a mom or a wife or a husband or a brother, so, like, it could be denying helping somebody in your family who might be in need when you have and they need, what did Jesus say about giving to people who needed it, right? If somebody steals from you, what did he say? Give them the shirt off your back also, which is, okay, Jesus, I'm not that perfect, but I'm trying. I'm trying. But just thinking about that in your own personal life, I'm trying to like think about my own personal examples of where I try to run away from responsibilities maybe, or roles that God gave me, or even just complaining about them, right? Like, it could be that you're not running away so much, but you're just kind of complaining about, I don't want to do this today. And if we don't do this today, where does that leave us? Where does that lead us into? What do we end up doing with our time? Are those good choices that we're making? Is it, are you gonna substitute that time that you would be doing what God has set you to do with, like, drinking or using substances or engaging in sexual immorality, or maybe you have other issues like gambling, or maybe even just being idle, like, just scrolling through TikTok, which it can be a nice little break throughout your day, but if you spend hours doing it, is that really what God has sent you to do? So like those types of things, thinking about how this applies to you. Like, maybe you're not a murderer. Maybe you would never cheat on your spouse. Maybe you would never try and get somebody drunk and trick them. Like, maybe that's not you. However, we can still find like micro lessons in this, and that we were sent here to do certain tasks and fulfill certain roles. And so when we complain or run away from God, God's roles for us, what do we end up doing instead? And is that really a productive use of our time? And how does it impact us and the people around us? So that's all I wanted to leave you with. Thanks for joining me. If you like the video, you can like it below, or you can subscribe if you want to watch more. And thanks for joining. Peace be with you. Bye.